The Stranger Things finale is finally out, and I've got some thoughts. Now, I'm one of those people that's watched this show since the first season came out. I watched the trailers for it, and I was like, Winona Ryder in an 80s themed like horror show with it kind of looks like the Goonies. You know, I was sold immediately. So in the last 9 years of this show coming out, I've had ups and downs with how I've felt about it overall. So by the time we got to 5, I was back on the hype train, but my expectations weren't very crazy. I wasn't expecting this to be the, best television I ever saw or anything. So let's get into the positives of the finale of Stranger Things 5. So I do like the interaction we have between Erica and Mr. Clark. Mr. Clark being a character that was in the very first season, was pretty important there, but wasn't in on what was happening, Was always one of those characters that I kind of wanted to be in on it. So I'm actually really glad to see that by the finale, he is fully embraced into this group now. And he finally cusses. Well, he says goddamn, close enough, right? There's a few big things that stuck out to me as things I really enjoyed about it, but there were some seeds laid throughout this season and even season 4. Depending on how you interpret it, you could see that they are laying seeds that lead to Henry being redeemed, which led to this scene with Will talking to Henry in his mind, which I think was actually done great. It's their sort of big speech moment in this episode, And just when you think they're going to redeem him, they don't. He's like, nah, I'm totally into this. Whether or not that just means he's fully embraced it or was taken over by it. I mean, he was such a young child when he became fused to this thing that basically just is him, The Duffer Brothers talked about getting a needle drop that was never used before in a movie or television show before. Now, there's 4 big ones that people are talking about. The Iron Maiden one's not one that I recall, off the top of my head. I always thought Iron Maiden's album art was cooler than their music. But there are 2 Prince songs, count it 2. Both of these songs are, however, in the film Purple Rain. I don't know if they've been in anything else, but When Doves Cry, now that's a banger. That's one of my favorite songs of all time, and there's no bass on that track, which is just an interesting note, but it's not that the lyrics match up, but the tone and mood of the song kind of does, And then they play Purple Rain, and that one definitely does match up a little bit better, lyrically. And it's just, Prince is so good, man, come on. And then you have Here Comes Your Man by the Pixies, which I can think of in at least one other movie, which is 500 Days of Summer, at least in a karaoke scene. I don't know if they have the actual Pixies version, but either way. Going further, I did like the epilogue. A lot of people are going to be complaining that they didn't kill enough characters in this. I didn't think you had to kill off a ton of characters. 11 dying was something that I felt like could happen from the beginning of this season 5. And then they started hinting at it and it was like, oh, this could definitely happen. And at this moment, it's obviously a little more vague, right? But that's actually one of the issues I have with it. So I guess let's switch over to the negatives of Stranger Things 5, the finale. I think some of it is predictable. As me and my girlfriend are watching it and talking about it, about 5 minutes before things are going to happen, you can completely just, it's all laid out ahead of time, especially if you pay attention, if you watched all these seasons and stuff. So I have one example of this that I can think of off the top of my head that also leads into another dislike. Steve's death fake-out. It is obvious, I feel like, to anyone watching this show that Steve is not going to die falling off a tower. That ain't the way he's going to go. If it is, people would be pissed he didn't die for something. He didn't get killed by Vecna protecting someone or something. You know what I mean? It's just, it wasn't going to happen. It wasn't in the cards. Especially when you cut to black that long, creating that tension, it's like, he's not dead, bro. I do think a small critique would be that the writing of Stranger Things as it went on, overall, just got a little bit more mainstreamy and more for a general, wider audience, as opposed to that first season kind of just being for what felt like a more core group, even though it obviously expanded out, and that's why they kind of potentially expanded their writing style, maybe even unintentionally, but the Steve death fake-out was just, I don't know, borderline criminal. The only thing more criminal is the 11 death/not death. I gotta say, I do rather like the speech that Mike gives about how he thinks that she's out there, still living, that she came up with a plan and did all this. He doesn't say that he knows this. He says he feels it, he chooses to believe it. I did really like how the series ended overall there. That scene with them playing D&D and everything, it was good, right? The kids coming down, him watching on and being like, oh yeah, there you go. Another issue I have is the military. So the military and Linda Hamilton's character in general, well, she felt really wasted, her character. In fact, we don't even know the fate of her character because, like, they weren't arrested, they were just let go. I mean, I don't need a detailed explanation about it, but it is just one of those weird things that, like, we could all just be being a little bit nitpicky with this. But personally, I think Linda Hamilton should have been a little bit more evil, intimidating. I mean, she was when she had a thing to do like that, but, like, she just did a lot of standing around. I did like the actual Mind Flayer walking around and stuff. However, like many people, I thought the battle between Eleven and Vecna, the final battle, was a little lackluster, but I can also live with that. Final battles are often lackluster to me, so I don't know. Maybe I'm just alone in that. Remaining thoughts I have, overall, the season, I want to watch it all together again. I know a lot of people didn't like the third episode of Part 2. Will coming out was a little bit clunky. I don't think it needed to happen in a room full of everyone. I understand the logic behind it and how they wrote it and everything, though. I liked the dialogue that he spoke. I just wish it had been maybe just a little bit more personal with only like 4 or 5 characters. Again, I'm just being nitpicky. I don't really hate that scene as much as other people do. But this reminds me of a theory I have, which is how expectations play into your enjoyment of something, because my expectations for Season 5 were pretty mild. Once I actually saw the trailers, I didn't know where this was actually going to go, and I had a decent enough time with it. Before I rate the finale, why don't you jump in the comments down below, let me know what you think of this one. What bothered you? What did you love? Do you have mixed feelings on it, or do you swing one way or the other? If we're talking just the finale and not Season 5 overall, I'd probably give it a 3.5 or 4 hearts out of 5. Leaning closer to 3.5. We'll say 3.5. There are definitely things I loved about it. There are things that bothered me about it. Maybe on a rewatch, I will feel differently. I will be ranking all 5 seasons in a video coming up, so be sure to check out that. And if you like this video, check out this one and hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.